Hey, this is Suzanne. Thanks for coming and watching this. I've got a brief demonstration to help you understand the concept of maturing over time and how intimacy plays into it. So I was reading a really smart man named Walter Brueggemann, who's alive today as a theologian, and Richard Rohr, who wrote a book on the second half of life and sort of combined their theories. And I want to illustrate it using these simple blocks. So you can divide the level and the journey of maturity into 3 phases according to them. The first is the container phase. If you picture this as a container, pouring in all of your identity into it. It focuses on the law. So Walter Brueggemann says when you read the Bible, your first books are the Pentateuch. And they tell you who you are, who you're not, what a good Jew looks like, what one does not look like, that you're loved, that you're chosen, you're treasured, and here's the relationship that God wants you. It's sort of as if the 10 Commandments and the law create a boundary line and we can pour in identity from there. So that's the first portion. This happens from the time we're a child, definitely up into our teens. And then as we go through time, we get into this part. It mirrors the prophets. So we've gone through the beginning of the scriptures and we're moving into this stage of the prophets. Now, what could they do? They could create distance between themselves and this container part because they realized, I'm not perfect. This doesn't always work the way it should work. What do I do with my shadow side? What do I do when I need to forgive? Or when I need forgiveness. And so they pull away a little bit and they're able to be critical or analytical. Now, not cruelly critical and not bitter, but just want to separate and look and analyze. Then they say the next phase is the wisdom literature. Think Psalms, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Songs, those, Job. And it's when you've matured through life enough that you've gone to this point and you realize there's a lot of tension in the world. There's a mystery. You hold the fact that Jesus loves you and you're suffering. And things like that. That's just one example. It's very difficult, but this is often in the latter phases of life. Now, what I want to propose is between these, there's a wall. And often what happens is we go through our container identity part, grow up, things are good, we start to see incongruences, we get into this critical phase, and then life gets hard and we slam up against a wall. Well, if we work through this wall, I believe we do get into wisdom. If we don't work through this wall, I think we bounce back. If we bounce back into the criticism part, we become bitter, critical in an ugly way, demeaning, sarcastic in a biting way. If we bounce back into this first stage, I believe we become perfectionists. We have to do everything right because that's the right, good thing to do with identity. So what I see as best is to press through that wall. Now we've got to do that with God's help. And I've learned 2 things about the wall. Something has to die on the wall, and something is remade at the wall. For some of you, it may have been divorce. It may have been the death of someone dear to you. Some crisis is what this wall represents, and you are remade on the inside out. So one last bit, so that doesn't fall. Intimacy. I believe that intimacy with God through these 2 phases grows at a steady rate. But when you work through a wall and you continue on into wisdom, I believe it just is exponential because He has moved in your guts, your heart, and your soul, and you are a different person. So our intimacy, steady, boom, and increases exponentially. So think about that when you think about generations, maturity, who you are, who you're becoming, what phase of life you're in, and ask yourself some questions about this. Where are you in this? here, here. Maybe you're slammed up against a wall right now and you need a lot of love and support. Maybe you're on this side and you're the one who can speak into people who are still over here. But think about this. It's just a good theory to help us discuss something. So, love you. Thanks. Bye.